Ladies and gentlemen, was the engagement between President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Amolo Odinga a trap or a plan? That is the topic I want to dissect on this video here today. But kindly, before I do so, if this is the first time you're watching our videos, make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment, because that's the best support you can always give this channel. What do I mean by a trap? A trap in a scenario that when someone brings you in so that at least tricks you to benefit in some way. Then a plan, it is someone's intentions to bring this person genuinely to help. Now, in this case here, I want to look at it from two angles, either a plan or a trap from the two politicians. That's Raila Amolo Odinga or William Ruto. Now, how is it a plan for William Ruto? I believe it's a plan because William Ruto has lately noticed a lot of destabilization in the government, where we are having the protests here and there, not just the professional groups, but also the Kenyan citizens, particularly by the Gen Zs and the millennials. We also realized that Raila could organize protests in the country and destabilize the government completely. So in this case here, where we had the protest in the country, Ruto was lucky that Raila was not involved, because then the country could have come to an end. Because if Raila could have said, now let's go and protest, let's occupy parliament, let's go to State House, plus the Gen Z and millennial spirit, probably they could have gone further and actually occupy State House. Therefore, it is a plan of William Ruto to bring Raila in and calm the country, manage some expectations from people in the country, at least also mind some groups that did not actually turn up in the protests. Another thing I want to say, it is the also checking from what has been happening in the country. William Ruto needs people who have ideas, at least to perform in the various aspects. And in this case, I want to be specific on John Mbadi, who has been very eloquent speaking on how the government is using bad policies, particularly in the financial sector, that are harming Kenyans right now. So therefore, I feel like bringing in Mbadi particularly, he was coming to calm down and also bring solutions from the opposition and Raila's side to ensure at least the government is running the way it's supposed to happen. Now, how is it a trap? I feel that William Ruto gave the Azimio people, the ODM nominees, dockets that are very crucial. Dockets that, if they are not careful, these are dockets that they can easily fail and even go ahead to disappoint Raila Amolo Odinga and the supporters across the country. If they fail in these dockets, there's a likelihood that Raila Amolo Odinga and his team, they are going to sink with President William Ruto. Therefore, it's a trap in a scenario that if these people don't perform, they will sink together. It's also a trap from another end that William Ruto wants to brand the Azimio people in 1 year or 2 years before the election that they are very incompetent. Why am I saying so? He has given them dockets that they cannot control entirely by themselves. In this case here, if there's any policy that is going to be implemented in any of these ministries, President Ruto must give assent to that, must give an okay for this and that to happen. They are not going to have a free area for them to operate. They must have policies, and also they must have instructions from the president. Therefore, if the president decides to stop these people from doing one or two things that are good, then there's a likelihood that these people are going to fail, and President William Ruto will brand the Azimio and the ODM entirely as failures. I also feel in one way or the other that the country right now, having people like Mbadi coming on board, there's a likelihood that Mbadi and his team are not really well acquainted with the bottom-up economic model. Therefore, it means very well that these people are not going to deliver as per to the expectation of William Ruto and his supporters who voted under the policies of the bottom-up economic model. So therefore, I personally feel that these people, if they can't deliver on the bottom-up economic model, then there's a likelihood that they're also going to be deemed to be failures. Now, leave alone that. William Ruto has taken roots in most of these ministries. His people have been appointed either as head of those parastatals. Most of the employees are from his team, and now having these people under them, they can decide to sabotage, and when they can fail to take instructions from the ODM guys. So that means very well that there's a likelihood that these people can fail terribly, and because of that, William Ruto will win, because he shall have said that he has tried to include the entire government, but also those people he brought on board, particularly from the Azimio side or even from ODM side, have failed to perform. Therefore, Baba and his team will seem to be again failures. It is also a trap in another way, in that if Raila decides to support someone else in 2027, these others, particularly the ODM people and those who are nominated that are bigwigs in ODM, shall have been already portrayed as to be traitors, because they left the Gen Zs, they left the wishes of Kenyans and joined President William Ruto. And actually, they even joined despite the conditions that were given by the various parts of the country, by the Gen Zs and other people in the country. They ignored, those conditions were ignored, and the elected people were not, they nominated people that were not entirely qualified to fit in those positions. Now, it's also a trap based on the qualifications, because if you check, for instance, Hajan Joho, he does not have the qualifications to run that industry. If you check, for instance, Opiyo Wandayi, running the cabinet secretary as being a cabinet secretary under the under the energy docket, he is not qualified at all to run such docket. So that means here very well that if these people are not qualified, then how are they going to deliver? They're going to depend on experts who are under them, particularly the PS or maybe head of parastatals or some of the engineers within the system. And these engineers within the system have instructions on how they're going to run these things, how things are happening to fit the expectations and the requirements of the government of the day led by President William Samoei Ruto. Now, it's also a trap to William Ruto to some extent from Raila Amolo Odinga. Where am I saying so? Now, Raila Amolo Odinga is taking to understand these people to understand how government is run, how people are doing things. And actually, maybe even at some point, William Ruto will likely part ways with them. And if it happens, these guys are going to run, then it will be easy for them, at least they have an understanding on what is happening. Or maybe they understand how William Ruto is operating these energies, in these dockets. Why am I saying so? For instance, in the energy docket, there's a lot of corruption, I guess, that is going on there. That means that if these people get to understand, they can easily expose these things to the public. And because we know Mbadi very well, we know how people can operate. Because at this point, if they expose, they can also brand Ruto in another way. But of course, the person who is going to gain here most, it is William Ruto. Now, another thing I feel that it's a trap from William Ruto, actually, it's a plan, actually, not even a trap. It's because if Mount Kenya decides to quit William Ruto, decides to stop supporting William Ruto, then there's a likelihood that William Ruto will be isolated. And bringing Raila Amolo Odinga, the support from Nyanza and other support bases from the country, particularly Mombasa and Western, that means very well that William Ruto is going to survive the coming 2027 elections. That is my video there, and there. If this is the first time you're watching once again our videos, make sure to subscribe, like and comment, because that's the best support you can always give this channel.